Hello and welcome to a Topic a Month podcast, where we take one topic a month and split it into weekly segments. This month's topic is brought to you by Cargo Cults. Cargo Cults, where you worship a more powerful society without knowing anything about it. This week's guest is back from before in the past, but recorded it the same day from previously. Bruce McRae.
Hello.
As stated, this month's topic is on religion. If you are easily offended, I do highly suggest that you switch off for this month, as religious ridicule will not be spared. There will be no ridicule of a person, but the person's beliefs, actions upon them, and why they put blind faith into a blind book filled with murder, sacrificial animals, inconsistencies, inaccuracies, ill-conceived scientific truth, hateful speech, and condemnation towards fellow man on the grounds of mixed fabrics. In any case, this episode will probably run long, so prepare for that. If it goes longer than expected, we'll do a buy one, get one, where both are free. Thank you, Bruce, for making the 2-hour trek to come up here. So, your religious background, if you have any.
Yes.
Were you brought up in a religious home? Was it very religious, not religious, or anything as such?
Most of religion was coming from my grandparents. My dad, I don't think he really, I guess there really wasn't much religion in our home. But after he passed away when I was 9 years old, we ended up going through custody battle where I was between my grandparents and one of my aunts and uncles. And my grandparents, I wasn't baptized yet, and then they wanted me to be baptized in Lutheran church, and then my aunts and uncle, they wanted me in Catholic church, and I guess I don't know, I just kind of decided to go with Catholic. I don't know why, just because I wanted to go live with my aunt and uncle, which I ended up doing. And I still really didn't understand too much of either of the two, and I really wasn't fond of either, I guess. Because I was just kind of forced to go to church growing up through the teenage years, and then kind of started going less and less, and then like it seems like most Catholics, where it's just Christmas and Easter.
yeah, the Catholic light thing.
Yeah, and I don't know, I never really had my own religious beliefs. I was told to do this, and I was told to say this in church, and bow my head and pray, and I don't know why, I just kind of went along with it.
Yeah. I find it interesting that a lot of kids when they're younger, in mostly any kind of home, they are baptized, and I find it odd that you weren't baptized until you were 9, probably 10.
Yeah, 10.
That is, I mean, that's really late in the game.
Yes.
Which is kind of odd coming from Catholic aunt and uncle and Lutheran grandparents. Yeah. That usually is right out of the gate. Like, once you're born, within a few months, you are baptized. To not be baptized, I mean, that's strange. I think I was baptized, and none of my family that I know of is incredibly religious. So that's actually really interesting. That I didn't know that. Yeah. So you got to get dunked in water and put water on your head and whatever else.
Yeah, I had to go bend over this giant kind of pool basin thing or whatever. It's like, because they obviously weren't going to hold me over the water. Yeah, so I had to bend my head over and then get the holy water poured on and light the little candle. And
poor priest holding an 80-pound child over a little basin of water. Yeah, I suppose it'd be a little difficult for him. So your parents weren't very religious. Have you talked to any of your family about why they weren't religious, or is it just
Well, I know my whole mom's side of the family was, but she passed away when I was 10 months old. So it's like if she was still alive, I'm sure I would have been baptized when I was younger or whatever, because I'm sure with the rest of the family being so religious, I'm pretty sure she was. And my dad, I was young, so we really didn't talk about religion, I guess, but I guess it really never came up.
None of your extended family really talked about anything about the immediacy of it?
Not really, no.
Okay. Well, I guess most
Yeah.
people aren't going to do that anyway. Nobody on
Yeah.
my sides of the family really talked about it. I don't know if it's an assumption that, yes, you do believe until otherwise stated.
Yeah.
Or it's because it's such a hot button topic about religion that some people just don't want to talk about it. I don't know if it's a fear of an offense or they just assume that, well, 90% of America is religious in some shape or form, which it really isn't. Yeah, I guess it's not really to be expected that it's going to be talked about. But for now, most people are trending away from faith, and it seems that you were already brought up kind of like that. You were brought to church, but when you're young, you don't really... It's hard to think of something so in-depth, especially when you still believe in Santa Claus, that the two kind of go hand in hand.
Yes,
that
do.
When you stop believing in Santa, the Easter Bunny, the Great Pumpkin from Charlie Brown, whatever, it's all the same thing, that you kind of correlate, well, if this stuff isn't real, and I was told this by an authority figure, it's probably a pretty good chance that God isn't real.
Yep.
So when did you finally lose whatever faith that you might had?
I guess even going through like middle school and high school, I was kind of joked like, yeah, I'm part of the non-church going Catholics,
right,
or whatever. And so it's like for the longest time, I didn't believe, but I never really called myself an atheist until actually really recently. I just kind of was part of the non-believer. I really didn't know what to call myself, I guess.
Right.
Until it was actually kind of funny where there's, like how like the Christians Against Drugs like Facebook pages, it's all comedy and everything and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, there was a Christians Against Pokemon Go, and first like the guys that were doing it, it was just how they worded everything. It seemed like they were actually serious.
Yeah.
And I took the bait instantly. It just started just ripping them apart and just arguing with them so much, and then finally ended up getting a private message from one of the guys and stuff, and talking with him for a while, and like then I kind of started researching, because like I guess I never really thought of the word atheist really, and I looked it up and like, wait, that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
And kind of just researched, because for I guess the longest time I kept thinking pagan was something with not being religious and stuff, and then I started researching everything and kind of learning out more, and then going into the different podcasts and stuff, and finding the Thinking Atheist podcast, and it's actually, and then the first one I'm listening to actually was interview with Peter H. Gilmore, the head of the Church of Satan.
Yeah,
and stuff, because on that Facebook page, there's a lot of people that were bringing up the satanic tenets and everything, and how they have such better morals than the church obviously does.
Way better.
And I'm like, holy shit, all this makes so much sense and stuff. And I started researching all of that and everything. And
it's very humanitarian, the Church of Satan. Like, people see, it's the Church of Satan. They must worship the devil. Well, no, they don't. At all. Yeah. They're very a humanist religion, as it were. That everybody should be treated equally and with dignity.
Yeah.
That's something that Christianity, Catholicism, Judaism, for a huge chunk of it, and Islam, very much Islam, that there is not a lot of humanitarianism in there. None whatsoever. I mean, you can find a little, but then there's just insurmountable evidence within the books and the teachings and the religion that is just polar opposite to that. So for a lot of atheists, including myself, it is a huge part of our lives, but does it define you as a person?
It's kind of, but not really. I kind of see more humanitarian of kind of defining me more, because atheist defines what I don't believe. humanitarian kind of defines more of who I am, kind of more beliefs.
Right. It's like a lot of people have put it, they don't necessarily like to use the term atheist because it would be like saying I don't believe in leprechauns, so I'm a leprechaun.
Yeah.
You don't use that as a defining term. You use that as, this is what I don't believe about religion in general, whereas humanitarianism is a philosophy of life. It is a way to live your life, like being Christian would be a way to live your life. You just happen to believe in the Christian God or Jesus or the Holy Trinity. Has it come into conflict, your lack of belief within friends, family, coworkers, or anything like that in your life?
Actually, it's been not too bad. Because I was definitely worried about how my wife was going to take it. Because, we've kind of lived our lives more like kind of non-religiously and stuff, but she still holds on to some of the beliefs, but yet still she only ends up going to church on Christmas and Easter and stuff as well. But yeah, she still has the beliefs and everything. And yeah, we've only had a couple conversations about it and stuff, kind of talking about like where both of our beliefs stand and stuff. And it was both civil both times, and then besides that, we just kind of don't talk about it because it's really wasn't a huge part of our lives before, so why just kind of put it on the back burner? And
it is not it seems like for you just said that it's not a defining part about who you are. You're still obviously a good person. You don't go around stabbing people, because generally atheists don't do that. And for your wife, it seems like it's not a huge part for her either, because I mean, I really haven't known her to be religious in any shape or form. And I didn't even know she was, if at all. I mean, I would assume that she is probably more deist than anything.
Yes.
She just happens to subscribe to this chunk of the deism for it. She believes there's a higher power, but... Yeah,
because like she was like, I don't even... doesn't really adhere to like the Christian God, just kind of like that there is some deity out there, and then pretty much that there is a heaven. That's kind of about it, really. Very
loosely hopeful for whatever comes after her life. Okay. Well, that's, I mean, obviously that's
which is about as much as I could ask for. So.
Yeah. I mean, she's not very right-wing Catholic Christian fundamentalist, which I don't think you guys would be together if she were, even when you guys met.
Yeah.
Have you brought anything up to family? How did that go? Did that change relationships overall?
Haven't really talked about it much with family. Like I know her sister-in-law, her sister, kind of knows that it was. I know she was going to church like one day or whatever, and it was like, I was over. It just kind of looked at me and just kind of laughed. It was like, yeah, I know you don't want to go or whatever. It's like, yeah, sure, you don't want to go anyways. So it was. I don't know. It just hasn't really ran into any problems at all.
It's really progressive and good because you don't tend to see that. For a lot of people that were brought up in a religious setting, it can be from being shunned and kicked out of the home to being disowned, attacked, whatever it is. And for us, myself as well, it's been very easy going for us, but we are in the north. We're in Minnesota. We're in a very progressive place that nobody up here really cares too much. Like, you do your own thing. We're not gonna whatever. Family, friends, coworkers, whatever it is. It can be difficult for some people, especially in the South, in the very like Southern Baptist. Like, if you say, especially if you're black, you're probably going to get kicked out. You might even get attacked for saying that you have no belief in God, because it's very ingrained into that culture, especially being Southern Baptist and especially being black, that it is very hard. So we're lucky that we didn't have that backlash for it. do you see? So, what's your feeling on religion as a whole? Like, this is going to encompass everything. This is from Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hindu, whatever it is, pagan from years ago, Viking, Norse gods from years ago, and so forth. What's your view on it?
I think all the religions, they pretty much just came from they don't know why things happen, and they decided to go make up stories of like the Greek god or whatever that bring the sun across the sky, and other things. Like they don't understand things, so they decided to go make these stories, and then people started believing the stories because that's the only explanation they got.
Which is really easy considering this was 3,000 years ago, so that's got to be the explanation for it.
Yeah, and so then people think they don't want to, well, they didn't have the capabilities, or they just didn't want to fully understand how things work in our whole world. So they decided to just go believe the stories, and they kind of quit looking for the real answers.
Yeah.
And
when the tech and the science isn't there to be able to explain things, it is very difficult to accept anything thereof other than supernatural. Point in fact, when the theory of germs came around, when the guy had the microscope and he saw all this stuff happening to cells, and he said, well, there's got to be something that's doing this, and he came up with the theory, the scientific community just laughed him out.
Yep.
But it's true. It's 100% true. We can see the germs. We know what they're doing. And we've accepted this, and now we're moving on and getting more proof by it. But prior to that, we didn't know what was happening. There was a lot of religious stuff that was trying to explain sicknesses, like the Black Plague. But we now know it was carried by rats.
Demons were causing seizures.
Come on. It's really, it's stupid. You can't, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. Fucking look at the facts. That's not how it works. But, so, it is maddening when you try to explain something that can be explained with science, and you have the facts for it, and you have all the evidence for it, but people still say, no, God did it.
Yep.
And that's a default for a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
And thanking God for so many things, and you're like, well, no, thank a doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That baffles me. Science saved you, dunce.
Yeah. There's a reason why faith healers are not in hospitals. They're doctors.
Yeah, if faith healing actually worked, you'd think the doctors wouldn't be there anymore and they'd be faith healers. But, lo and behold, faith healing doesn't work. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but no. Yeah. All right, so that was a good tangent to rip apart. So is religion to me as a whole can be good, but when it needs to be broken down to separate religions, like if I were to be of an Abrahamic faith, I would be Jewish because it's better, maybe Christian, maybe Catholic, but definitely not Islam. But the thing is, Islam, Catholicism, and Christianity are basically all the same thing. Judaism is the same thing as all Abrahamic religion, but Judaism is a little nicer overall because they don't necessarily believe that there's a hell. There's a little bit of a purgatory that you'll spend like 2 weeks in, and when the people are done praying for you, you get sent to heaven or whatever. But at the same time, it's all three are very hateful.
Yes.
Because they all derive from the same kind of book, which is stupid. They all fight against each other because it's the same religion, which doesn't make any sense. So I find all those religions to be, at the root, very hateful, very horrible. But the Eastern religions, specifically like Buddhism, I'd say that's more of a philosophy.
Yes.
And I think that's a pretty good religion. I mean, overall, it doesn't tell you to go out and stone a person for being gay. Like, it just isn't there. Nobody cares because you do whatever you want.
Yep.
So what's your take on Christianity as a whole? And from what we're coming from, we're both from Minnesota, so this is going to change per state,
Yes.
per whatever country it's in.
Yeah, for around here, there are the good parts where it is a sense of community for people. It's a way for people to gather together on Sundays or whatever day and stuff, and it is kind of a support group and stuff. But it's still just the whole basis of it is it's wrong, obviously, because it's how do I say it? Because it's all still based through through their religious beliefs. So.
Yeah, it's good that it gives community support, especially up for here. Minnesota tends to be Lutheran and Protestant.
Yeah.
It's a good place to have a social function, a social gathering, so it does help give support to the community overall, but at its root, I mean, I'm still along the lines of it's not the tenets in it are maddening sometimes. Yes. I mean, at very best, there's not an overall good part about it unless you give blind belief into Jesus.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, whether or not he was alive is not the fact. What it comes down to is, did what he teach, is that good for humanity as a whole? And chances are it's a big resounding no.
Yeah.
Did you have any, like, how recently did you come to the realization that I am atheist? I don't believe in anything else.
Last year, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're relatively new to it. I mean, well, I wouldn't say
Yes.
relatively new. Everybody is born this way.
Yeah.
That's the default.
Yeah. Of coming to the realization. I would. Yeah.
Okay. And for a lot of people, it is a long process to go from having a belief in something to not having a belief. For some people, it's instant. Was yours a long process in which you lost it, or that you came to the realization that it's just not there?
I don't know, I was kind of considering myself like more of like I guess the non-church going Catholic, I guess, is really the way to put it for probably the past 10, 15 years.
Okay.
Where I never really believed it. It was just kind of there, but I just didn't really come to like the realization that, yes, I am an atheist and I'm sick of this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's letting somebody figure something out on their own through understanding of religion and understanding of reality, because those two are 110% separate as far as the way of the world, the way of reality. There's a way to define the world, and that is through science, because that's what got us to this point today, is through technology and science and understanding nature. And then there's the way of religion, which, if you see the incredibly religious that are out in the Middle East, yeah, they have tech out there, but it is in no way advancing to the point that having more science is. When you have more science, your society will advance a lot further, a lot quicker, and better overall. In any case, I already lost where I was going. But yeah, there is the two ways to define reality in and of itself. There's the scientific method, which obviously we can see that it's a good job. I'm speaking into a microphone. That's changing my voice into a digital copy, and then we're going to upload this for you guys to listen to. And there's the other way, which you have a lot of religion, and it keeps you in the Stone Age, because that's what believing in something that cannot be proven does, without trying to find evidence to yourself. Blind faith is just that, blind. It's blind leading the blind, and it always has been and always will be. Do any of your current coworkers know it's you're still in the military? Do they know about it? Is there backlash for it? Do they care?
We tried it. Well, I know there are a few religious coworkers and stuff, but I guess we kind of just shy away from the topic mostly, especially because, well, in the military in general, we kind of try to stay away from religious topics anyways.
Yeah.
Because religion's just so deeply rooted in the military, so I'd rather just kind of keep it on the down low and just rather not cause problems, especially if I have like super religious leadership and stuff that could end up running into problems.
Yeah. I don't know exactly how the hierarchy works there in terms of being reprimanded. I don't know if it's the same up here as it is other places in the United States or other places in the world, but there can be severe consequences for the people above you if they're very religious. They find out that you have no belief or that you are of a different faith, that there can be big consequences for being like that.
Yeah.
Do you get kind of that inkling in the unit that you're in, or is it very like, we're just not going to talk about it, we're going to leave it alone, and that's that?
Yeah, we pretty much just kind of leave it alone. Yeah, it's because it's usually just the best way to go about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's obviously that's good, because you don't want to bring up anything, especially for being kind of in that minority of having no faith in a military setting, which tends to be more religious than anything else. Do you see the country going into a worse or a better future given the state that it's in now, as far as religion is concerned?
It's slowly getting better. It's because I remember what the last Pew Poll was, that it was, I don't remember what the percentage was of, well, they're considering the whole non-believer category, so it's like including atheists and a couple other things, but it seems like the less religious beliefs, the more you end up getting into the better equal rights and everything and stuff too. So
there seems to be a more humanitarian-esque part about the less faith that a person has, the more ethical they're going to be with humans, animals even, as far as how we are treated and the equality that is perceived, because I mean, everybody's a human. Like, my rights are the same as the other person's rights. It doesn't matter what color your skin is, what your gender is, whether you're asexual, not sexual, transsexual, whatever it is. We have the same rights because we're both humans, and there seems to be a lot of hate and anger towards somebody else who is different, and that is perceived also not to, because you're different and you're not like me, you don't deserve the same equality that I do, which for religion tends to go hand in hand. As we can see in any part of the Bible or any part of the Talmud or any part of the Quran. For any of the podcasts that you listen to, you told me that you listened to The Scathing Atheist?
Yeah, I just started listening to them.
Have they brought up any arguments for or against religion in terms of how it's perceived by themselves? Have they brought up good arguments against it? I suppose I don't know how far along you are in the podcast.
I suppose I just started with them. Probably better off with Seth Anders and the Thinking Atheist, because I listened to almost every one of their episodes. He does. I suppose he does like a really good job of the counter argument stuff, but then he'll actually listen to any of the if they have like religious guests on and stuff, he does a really good job of listening to their points and then kind of breaking down of why all this stuff doesn't make sense, and you can do good without putting religion label on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is a little ironic in and of itself, that there's a lot of bad that comes out of religion, but it is a big perception that it is good.
Yeah.
Whereas out of proclaiming yourself to be atheist, you tend to be a lot more humanist, and humanism has a lot better ethical connotations to it than religion does, which is, for them, I suppose, they don't see it that way. They see atheists as heretics that are going to go around and eat babies and drink goat blood, which we don't, except on Sundays when you guys are at church. That's when we snatch everybody. For your perception as religious people go, do you see them as that they're a little deluded, blinded, in a fog, or they're just misplacing their hope in an afterlife into something else? Or how do you see them overall?
I guess it kind of depends on how in-depth their religious beliefs are, where if they just kind of have their certain beliefs and it's their own private beliefs, they're not trying to project it onto other people. Like that, I don't really have a problem with. Yeah, there's things that you have blind faith in that I don't agree with, but it's not harming anybody else. The problems lie in where you're trying to project your views on other people, and it's, what was it? I'm trying to think of the quote. It's, I don't do something because of my religious beliefs, but then the problem lies in where you can't do this, it's against my beliefs. Where that...
The religious freedom
yes.
stuff. Yeah, I agree 100% with you that so long as you're not projecting whatever weird thing that you believe in. I don't care what it is. It can be Christianity, Hindu, whatever. It doesn't really matter. I don't care what you believe. But if you're projecting that on anybody else and forcing them through either with a gun to their head, quite literally, or through law of the country, it becomes it becomes very maddening to be able to have to put up with that. But they believe that they are doing the right thing, and unfortunately, they just aren't. There is no, in this country, a set belief in which you should be having faith in one thing, because if you want faith in one thing, then you really ought to convert to Islam and move out to the Middle East and see how that's working for everybody out there. Sharia law doesn't work, obviously, but that's what a lot of people want. They just want the Christian.
They want the Christian version.
Yeah, and they can't see beyond that. Like, it's not the same. It is the same thing, just under a different guise. They've put a mask on one and saying that it's something different, but it really isn't. It's the same BS through and through. Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't care if you believe. It doesn't really matter, so long as you don't project it upon me. If you want to have a discussion about it, that's just fine. But if you're going to preach from a pulpit or get on your soapbox and tell everybody that they're wrong and yours is the only right way, that's when it becomes a problem for everybody. And that should be ridiculed first and foremost. I don't know if you guys want to have a child in the future, but if you do, for a lot of people, it is, we're going to raise the child with whatever they want to believe. We're going to give them a world, and whatever they decide, that's what it goes. Do you follow the same kind of suit, or are you going to kind of raise them like...
Yeah, that was majority of the discussion between my wife and I with when you're talking about religion. The way that I want it is that I want to raise them and teach them about all these different religions equally, because it seems like the more you know about all these different religions, the less likely you are going to go believe in a certain one, because you realize that if this is true, but then this other religion says that this is true, but they're contradicting each other. And yeah, my wife still wants them to be baptized and go through the church and everything and stuff, but then I don't want to force the kids to do that either. I want them to make their own decisions. It's like, if they want to follow a certain belief system, yeah, I'm going to let them do it, because forcing somebody, I don't know. It's like, yeah, forcing somebody into Christianity, but then you don't want to like force them into it. It's like, hey, you need to be an atheist. It's like, well, no, not necessarily. It's like
Yeah.
I want them to come to their own conclusions.
Right, whatever it is, so long as they're a good person, obviously.
Yes.
If they start, it's like anybody, you don't want them to be bad. They can be of the Islamic faith, but if they're taking the Quran as literal as Muhammad wanted it to be taken, then that's causing a problem. Same thing with the Bible. If they're taking it literally, that's where it becomes a problem. But if they're good people overall, okay, be whatever faith that you want. I think that's most important when raising a kid. I don't know if I'm ever going to have kids, but at the same time, they're going to be an individual someday. They will be able to formulate their own opinions and understand whatever facts. It's a matter of giving them the tools to be able to do so. They should be taught, and everybody should be taught. It doesn't matter if you're just born 10 years old, 20, 30, 80. You should be able to taught how to critically think and solve problems based upon facts. To me, that's what a lot of religious stuff comes down to. They base factual evidence, which it's not really factual evidence, upon the feeling that it's correct. Feelings are clouded. Everybody knows this. If you've been in a relationship and then broken up because you've either fallen out of love, that is a feeling. We know it is based only upon emotion. It is not based upon hard fact. Like, if I have a feeling that the table we're sitting at is made out of granite, you would say...
It's wrong.
Exactly. Just because I feel it's made out of granite doesn't mean it's actually made out of granite. Yeah. So feelings aren't really based upon anything other than that emotion at the time, and emotions will always change. Facts never change. They are concrete. They are granite. So it's raising a person to critically think about something, especially if it's something that they identify with, I think is a major part of helping a person understand whatever it is. Whatever conclusion that they come to. If they conclude that there is a deity, you need to have the facts to support that. There aren't any. I don't know if anybody did this. They're not there. Which goes back to it's based upon feeling. But yes, critical thought, I think, is the best way and one of the best arguments to get a person out of any kind of faith. But I don't know. I haven't really talked to anybody else besides 2 or 3 people on the subject of religion. You are one of those who are included. It is a small community, even up here in Duluth, where I live at. There is the Lake Superior Freethinkers. I haven't gotten to any of the meetings, but in comparison to the size of non-belief in Minnesota, it is staggering how many people do have faith, and sometimes scary how many people are very religious and very outwardly religious, because that's the scariest part. Is there anybody that you know of that you're friends with that is to that very religious side of it, the very far right, that brings everything must be the Christian variety of Sharia Law? Do you know anybody that's like that?
There's a few of my wife's family members where everything is, I know it's they have to thank God for absolutely everything all the time, and it's like there was one where they just had a tornado go through the town or whatever, and then they had to go thank God that no one was hurt. Well, why don't you? But God sent a tornado. Yeah. But I don't know how like their views are for affecting other people. It's just that this is their belief and they're gonna go in, but they're still projecting it outward so much about thank God for this and this and this.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to. I wouldn't say that it's hard to ignore it. It is easy to ignore it, but it is hard to not see it.
Yes.
You could ignore commenting on it, and that's pretty easy because,
yes.
I mean, we see this every single day on Facebook. We see it on the television. We see it on the news. We see it wherever that people say, thank God for this, when the reason that it happened, the bad thing was probably because of your God. If that's your faith, then do you not see like the predicament that you're in?
Yeah.
Thank God my house survived, but my neighbors got knocked down. You know, because fuck that guy. Obviously. We do see this a lot, especially on Facebook, because I have a lot of religious friends, a whole religious family that they say, thank God for everything, thank God for this. I would love to comment on it, but it would probably mean being ostracized by that side and whatever, that's fine, but you don't want to be... It's hard to have a discussion about it without... the very religious thinking it's a personal attack, because usually that's what it comes down to.
Yep.
I haven't had any other religious conversations with anybody that have been meaningful, other than it's just been a non-issue. Have you talked to anybody of the religious side and had discussions thereof?
Well, we had one really long one on Facebook between a lot of people where he would... I don't remember what he said, but it was just a status about how... I think it was something about atheists don't have morals or whatever, just all bold letters of just attacking or whatever atheists or whatever, and then that's the one time that I it's like, all right, I have to comment or whatever.
Yeah.
And it just got into a long, drawn-out conversation, but it's really wasn't a good discussion. It was just kind of him blasting out. He wasn't listening. He was just kind of blasting out his beliefs, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And it was just... felt like I was kind of talking to a brick wall. And then a few other people and stuff like jumped in on both sides, really. But it was just kind of, they just want to project outwards and they don't really want to listen, and I'm just kind of, trying to break down his beliefs and stuff and seeing if he'll try to analyze it a little bit better, but they don't want to.
Yeah, it is. It can be hard to show the evidence that when people say that atheists don't have morals, we are not ethical. It is hard to say, it is not hard to say, it is hard to get them to understand that I'm an atheist, I don't go out and murder people.
Yeah.
I'm moral. I help people. I am moral. But they will, and I've been in one of these conversations before one time as well, to say that, well, where did you get your morals? Well, I got my morals from seeing that hurting people is bad. I don't want to do that. But they'll take it further and say, well, you got those morals from who? Well, I guess my parents. I mean, they taught me not to hurt anybody. Well, where did they get those from? They try to bring it all the way back down to, well, Jesus told you not to.
Yep.
But they don't understand that, well, before Jesus came around, I'm pretty sure people weren't running around stabbing everybody in the face saying, well, I'm not moral. I don't believe in your God. Therefore, I'm going to stab everybody. Because it doesn't work like that. But they are very blinded by their faith to say that, well, the only reason you aren't going around and doing that is because somebody taught you not to. Yep. Well, it's in human nature not to stab somebody. Yep. We're not killing each other right now. Yep. We are probably the least moral people in their definition of atheism, and we're not beating the shit out of each other. It can be maddening when they can't see that. When you're trying to describe to them that I am an atheist, I have morals, I am the evidence, right here, right in front of you. This is the evidence. You're conversating with them. So what the hell's the deal? Yeah, it is. There's not even like a good word for it. It's just like, how can you not see it? And it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
One thing that I've been noticed in following politics recently, and a little bit prior to this election, is that and doing very little reading upon the history of it, the Republican side has been getting more and more and more and more religiously affiliated, mostly since Reagan has been around. He was very religious at the time, and he was projecting a lot of his, if you're not of the religious, the far right, then you are not Republican. And that has been compiling. So further and further and further and further, when you're starting to get more religion in the government. Obviously, this is not just bad for people that don't have faith, but it's also bad for people of different faith. What do you think?
It's maddening listening to anything especially with Trump, with the trying to project all the religion into the politics. And then and then with our attorney general, saying that atheists don't have morals.
Yeah, and it's a swift kick in the head.
Yeah.
It is, yeah, it's for me, that is, I can accept that that's what they believe, and that's fine. What I will not accept about that whole cabinet is Betsy DeVos.
Yes.
Or however you pronounce her last name.
DeVos, yeah.
DeVos?
Yeah.
Okay. For those of you who don't really know or don't so much care, you should find out as much information on it as you can. You should care about it, whether you're of the same faith or a different faith. She is very not privatizing public schools, but in the same sense she will. A lot of that type of education is very religiously affiliated because those private schools tend to be more religious.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong, a lot of them tend to be incredibly good. A lot of the Catholic schools tend to be very good at teaching English, math, science, and so on. But they have that underlying cause that if you're not of this faith, then we will make you of this faith. And that's where the problem comes in, using taxpayer money for public education and funneling that into private schools, most of which are religiously affiliated.
And they discriminate a lot more.
Yeah, and they really do, because if you're different, well, you're not going to be in this school, and we're going to strip all the credits from you, so you're going to have to start over at the age of 17. Though that is an indoctrination of the public into a religious school, which is it's ridiculous. The Constitution protects that it shouldn't happen, but lo and behold, that's hopefully not what's going to happen. But it just might. It's terrifying. I believe that there should be more money funneled into education, but put into areas where it's actually going to matter, because the U.S. does give the most to public education, but it is, in my opinion, that it is not placed into, it's either not placed into teachers, it's not placed into schools that actually matter, which is ridiculous. I mean, yeah, we spend the most amount on it, but it's public education that's going to kind of help steer us away. The better we are educated, the more likely that we are not going to believe in any of this right-wing propaganda that is religion. But what are your thoughts on that? Should we put more money into public schools, or should we divert that money into better areas within the public schools? Should we teach about religion as an elective?
Yes. Because the more you know of it, but you have to have the quality teachers with the religion, because they can't preach at all. But if they are able to teach about the aspects of all these different religions, like the more you know about all these different ones, the less likely you're gonna end up falling into one of those categories.
Agreed.
Yeah, really. Religious inoculation prevents religious indoctrination.
Yeah. The more you know about one, the better are off, and the more likely you'll formulate a better opinion on it. Which kind of goes to the same point. There was more religion 1,000 years ago when the Bible was only in Latin.
Yeah.
And if you were to change it into your native language, you would probably be burned at the stake, because to know about the religion is to disbelieve in the religion. As we've seen, there are more non-believers around today because we are understanding what's going on in the religion. It's a little difficult to see people that are well educated especially in the sciences, that are very religious. I know of some, but for the most part, most of them are not religious, or deists, and they want something to be true in the afterlife, which is fine, or they believe in a specific God, but they don't preach it, and they understand that the way the body is, that's how it is because of nature. I haven't received, so far as yet, any persecution from the far-right religious people. I don't know if you have, since you are relatively
Not really.
new to the self-proclamation of being an atheist. It can be a hard discussion, especially with somebody that you're family or friends with. Family, I would imagine, more so, since they can assume that you are of that faith. I don't know if there's any good preparation for such, because I haven't really come across it.
And it's like, how do you start the conversation too? Like that,
that's got to be a really difficult part. You kind of, depending on who they are, do you wait for them to say something like, well, all these non-religious people are screwing up the country when we're not? Or it's really hard to bring it up to somebody who is religious, especially somebody who you're family with. I don't know if anybody's really been hinting to you on that side to have this discussion, because I personally haven't on my side.
No.
Is there anybody you're kind of dreading to have a conversation with at all?
I don't know if I could even have really the conversation with my mother-in-law, because like she's still church like every Sunday and stuff, but she doesn't really preach it though. But she still really holds on to the beliefs and everything and stuff. So I don't know if we ever will. I guess like out like during the week, I guess it just never really comes up. So
would you not have the conversation with her, or would you have the conversation with her if it came up?
If it came up, yeah.
It's good. It's good. It's good to have the discussion, because for me, it's a lot of philosophical questions than anything else, and anybody can have a debate philosophically about religion as a whole. Because it is philosophy to us. We see it as this is a way of life. It is not the truth, but it is a way of life. It can be hard to have the conversation. I've only had it with my mom 17, 18 years ago when I told her I was an atheist, and she got sad about it. I think she cried a little, but I don't think we've really touched on it then. It's a hard topic to bring up, especially with family.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure really what I would do. I don't know if I would bring up the conversation or not, because it can hit home for a lot of people. Which, for having another friend that is atheist, it is nice to be able to have this banter back and forth about her, about why, like, this stuff is kind of silly that you see happening over there. What do you find that any of the religious stuff that has happened in recent history, as far as the religious freedom bill, do you see, I mean, obviously there's a problem with it. Do you think it's a big problem, or it's just like, well, they brought it up just to have it? Like throwing them a bone, like, here's your scrap. We don't, whatever, just take it. It doesn't mean anything because it will be refuted.
Yeah. Yeah, it's... I don't know, it is...
We've got
I don't know.
The religious freedom stuff here, that I don't think that it's obviously not properly worded. It gives religious freedom to everybody, but I'm going to assume that when they thought everybody, they thought only my religion, which it's not just a religion, it's every religion that is in the United States. Unfortunately, it is worded as such where people without religion have nothing to fall back on. But we do have the Constitution to fall back on, that of which is binding for the entire United States. It's kind of a difficult one to have an argument about with somebody else, that when they bring up the religious freedom, well, I'm doing it because my religion lets me. Well, that's fine, but you're going to have to bear the repercussions as such. Would there be anything in your future that would change your mind for religion?
Evidence.
There it is. Done.
Simple as that.
That's something that we can both get behind. If you provide sufficient enough evidence for the fact that there might be a God, then yeah, we'll believe it. We just need the evidence for it. Because up until that point, you don't have the evidence to say that it's real. You only have the feeling, which feelings are flawed. I think that's one of the bigger things that people don't really understand about atheism and atheists, is that we will believe, but you need to provide the evidence for it. It's a little silly when they don't see it as such. Well, even if provided the evidence, you're not going to believe. Well, no, we will believe so long as you provide good enough evidence. But to the contrary, when we provide evidence that your belief is false, you don't believe it, which is a little weird. I don't really understand that. It just doesn't make any damn sense to me. Like, we've provided all this evidence, and then you've taken the goalpost and moved it a little bit further away. And then when we've provided evidence for that, it keeps getting moved back and back and back and back and back. I just don't really understand that reasoning for it. It's angering to me that they can't see the...
Why do smart people believe stupid things?
Yeah, I don't understand. There's the guy that was running for the Republican nominee. What's his name? He's a neuroscientist. Yeah, the black guy. I don't remember. Man, I should remember this. I should keep this really on hand. It's a good thing I have Google in front of me.
Yep.
Not Strange. Dr. Okay, so the first thing you type into Google is
Dr.
Strange,
Dr.
Seuss.
I was all happy that because they were supposed to put him for his name was in the hat for Secretary of Education, and I was like all happy that he didn't get it.
Yeah.
And then I started researching Betsy, and then I realized it wasn't any better.
No. Let's see if I can pull it up right here. Yeah, I'm Ben Carson.
Yep.
Yeah, he is a very, very smart guy. He's a neurosurgeon. He's a neuroscientist. It obviously he's got to be smart. He's got to be incredibly intelligent, but he's so indoctrinated into the faith that he's melded the two things together, and that is not something that you want.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying, the things that some of these people believe, and without even questioning, they just accept it because that's how it always has been, that's how it always will be, and to refute the evidence thereof is to obviously apparently disbelieve in the entire religion as a whole, which I don't really understand. Which that would be fine.
Yeah, and then he wants creationism and science classrooms and all that bullshit.
It's not how it works, people.
The Earth is not 6,000 years old.
Sure it is. I mean, Ken Ham says so.
Yeah.
Captain Ark encounter.
With his lightning rods.
With his lightning rods on top of it. Oh, man.
Even though he blames atheists for the failure of that ark.
Oh, of course. Yeah, it's definitely
our
our fault. Yeah. Because
there's so many that went through there and paid to go through there and videotape everything.
It doesn't make any sense. Apparently, factual evidence and science and critical thinking is the bane of religion, and it is. But it's obviously our fault that the Ark where is it, like Tennessee or something? It's in bumfuck nowhere.
Yeah, I think it's Tennessee.
It is in this small little podunk town that they wanted to boost the economy with. But it's made it worse. And it's like, well, how did you not see this happening? You could have asked an economist and they said, yeah, you shouldn't build it there because it's in the middle of nowhere. There's one hotel, one gas station. They're going to get bombarded with people and not be able to do anything for it. And nobody's going to want to stay there to have your 5 million people a year go to the Ark. That doesn't happen. Nobody's going to make that trek more than once. And most of it's just a laugh at it.
Yep.
But
there were dinosaurs on the Ark, though.
There were definitely dinosaurs on the Ark. It doesn't even, what the No, that's not how it fucking worked. That didn't fucking work like that. Jesus did not ride a fucking T-Rex. No. God damn it. Seriously, god damn it. That's not how it works. Come on. There was so much evidence that carbon dating is true. I mean, it's not going to get down to April 19th of 6.5 million years ago is when this happened. No, it's more like there's a buffer zone, for fuck's sake. Eventually we'll be able to get it down to that date, I'm sure, if there's need for it or care for it, but there just isn't that. If we can get, within 1,000 years over millennia ago, that's going to be just fine. God damn it.
But then if we came for monkeys, why are there still monkeys?
Such a ridiculous argument. Because that's not how evolution works. There's a common ancestor. That's how it fucking works. There's a common ancestor, and then it branches off from there. It's like a tree. There's one common thing for it, but that doesn't mean there's only one tree. There's multiple trees, and everything branches thereof. There's fucking proof for it. Fuck.
But God did it.
Of course he did. God created all things. Fucking didn't. So I got a quote from Richard Dawkins, somebody that we both know.
Yes.
He's a biologist out of England because he's incredibly smart. So, of course, he's from England. We are all atheists about most of the gods that humanity has ever believed in. Some of us just go one god further. You would still find it silly to believe in Zeus, Ra, Odin, or any of the other millions of deities that humanity has thunk to explain the world and the way things were. Gods are an ancient tradition to give us reason to unknowable, but now, when we can know, When we strive to know, every successive god has disappeared into history. Only Christ, Allah, and the Hindu deities survive, and they survive because of fear and fear alone. The first two sentences were of Dawkins, but that is really what it comes down to. We just don't believe in your Christ. The same way that they don't believe in Allah, the same way that they don't believe in any of the Hindu gods. It's the same thing. It just depends on where you're born. And a lot of people don't seem to understand that.
Like, you think if you're born in the Middle East, you're going to be a Southern Baptist? I don't think so.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that because there's no Southern Baptists out there because they've been beheaded already. I don't get it why they can't really see that. Like, you don't believe in Allah, they don't believe in Christ. They accept that Christ was there because Islam is the same thing as any other Abrahamic religion, but they separate the two to say that, well, Allah isn't the true God, well, Christ isn't the true God, but it's the same thing. Just because you don't believe in this stuff, they don't believe in that stuff. Either one is right or they're all wrong, and chances are they're all wrong because they both claim that they're the only one that's right. It is, from our point of view, a good argument to have. Either one is right, or because they all can't be right, or they're all wrong. There's no, and I don't know if they've come to that understanding for it. I think a lot of that faith has been watered down a little bit, that they've understood, well, these people believe that, and there's billions of them, to, well, maybe we'll just claim that the God is Jesus, or that is God, or is the Christian God, but we're actually deists. But then you get the far right on either side, then have the bantering back and forth. There seems to be a lot more a lot more in the middle of the moderates, as they would say, where, well, there is a God, we're just claiming to be Christians even though we're actually deists.
Yeah, cultural Christians.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
If it's all right to you, we've hit a little bit over an hour. Do you want to call it now and pick up the conversation at another date?
Sure.
Sounds good. Well, if you're interested in these topics, you can find other podcasts that touch on the same subjects. Ardent Atheist with Emery and Heather Henderson. Waking Up with Sam Harris. The Friendly Atheist with Hemant Mehta and Jessica Blumke. The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. What podcast did you listen to?
The Thinking Atheist by Seth Andrews.
And hey, thank you for joining us this week in whatever month this airs. I'm not sure. We'll maybe aim for December because it's the most religious month out of the year, obviously. You can yell at us on Twitter at A Topic a Month, find us on Facebook at A Topic a Month, or email us at atopicamonth@gmail.com. And I guess that's all the social media that I've got up. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you later.
Bye.